Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third episode of Royal Mystic Collective Wisdom. I want to start off this episode by introducing myself. I just kind of began the other two sort of to kind of kick myself in the pants and get on it and get it done. You can sit and mull it over forever. I've been wanting to do a podcast for at least a year, and I wanted to go ahead and get a few under my belt before the new year begins. I've got a lot of plans for this podcast to allow other people to be part of it as well, and our understanding of collective wisdom through all different aspects of different modalities. And I briefly will tell you I am a tarot reader on YouTube. I have Royal Mystic Tarot as my channel on YouTube, which I've been very successful at. And this is what I do now for my living. I used to have a 9 to 5 job, and I literally was spoken to by Divine to start a YouTube channel, which I laughed and ignored. Um, not for more than a day though, because it came back and said it louder. And that's when you, you can ignore it once, but the second time you should not ignore it. Right. So thankfully I did not. And with a very strong will to, I felt very compelled and very like my heart rang with the energy of doing this. And same with this podcast. So I'm starting the podcast with the intention of bringing more information. On the YouTube channel, I'm limited with what my message is, and it's whatever that reading is for the day. And I try not to stray off of what I'm focusing on because the time period is kind of small, and you don't want to, and I don't mean the time period as in what the reading covers. I'm talking about people don't want to pay attention to a long drawn out story, so you have to get to the point really quickly. I wanted to do this podcast so that I could get just a little more elaborate on some of the details of the things I'm talking about. So I'm going to talk about some of the phrases that you'll hear me say, and some of the understanding of what this is all about. I started learning about the law of attraction, and I started learning about choice and reaction, and understanding using creative source energy rather than reacting in the negative. And it started to change my life. And that's was the beginning of this whole journey for me to become Royal Mystic. I began to understand that I was really causing some of the things in my life by my energy, simply said. So energy is the main focus. Everything has its duality in this universe, and um, positive, negative, light, dark, up, down, you get the drift. Everything has its duality. So, this is one of the things you understand is if you can make, if things are happening in the negative, then the positive is also available. And if you choose to only focus on what you can do to move past a negative situation rather than taking that negative situation as the ultimate, that is all that can be, which I didn't know how to do. And I think a lot of people are struggling with that. So, the first thing you need to know is what you say matters and what you think matters, because speaking is a projection of sound, and sound is a frequency. And that frequency brings back to you what you're sending out in that frequency. So, what you say bears fruit. It's a seed, you plant it, it grows something and brings it back to you. So, we don't want the fruit of most of the things we've thought and said, correct? I know I didn't at that time because I was in victim mindset. And I didn't understand I actually had a choice to choose differently and to start to live in a different vibrational frequency, which changed my whole paradigm. One of the first things I did that made a big deal for my shift of energy was that I chose to no longer worship at the feet of fear. So I learned how to set intention. And intention is basically a goal, being able to set a goal. And it just means what is the if anything were possible, if there was no rule, nothing to stop you, if anything you said could manifest right in front of you, what would you want to be doing right now? What would your life be like? Start to visualize that in energy. And that's the whole thing, is understanding that the goal doesn't have to be small. It can be as large as you can imagine it being. It is unlimited from an unlimited source. You don't have to have earned it. It is yours automatically. The ability to manifest is there and available through your energy, as long as you can pick a point of what it is you want. The goal is the ultimate thing. Where do you want to end up? How will it feel? What do you think it looks like? And start to expand on that. Now, you can't live in that constantly. So, because there are things happening all around you. And some of the things that help you to keep in the energy of constantly growing in the positive are affirmations. So this is another term you'll hear me use a lot. And I'll say these even if you are one of my vibe tribers, my mystic vibe tribe, woot woot for my vibe tribers. I could have done that louder, but I didn't want to be crazy. The affirmations I use are things like, "Thank you, universe. I am living my best possible life now." Now you immediately see that is a very vague, wide open statement, and the reason is because I have intended it that way because I don't want to give any limitation for the universe, because it is truth when you believe something and you have the faith for it. So, in other words, if you believe bad things happen to you and nothing ever good happens to you and you want to be in that energy, well, guess what? You're manifesting that because you believe it and it is your faith and you're vibrating that frequency. You're identifying with it and you're in alignment with it. So, the affirmation of, "Thank you, universe. I am living my best possible life now," may take an adjustment period, but if you will continue to use it, it will eventually set into your heart and you will begin to believe it. When you begin to believe it, that's when the magic starts. That's when great things start to come in. And all you have to do is a series of right steps for a long enough period of time, and you will reach your goal. So, purposeful thinking and speaking help tremendously. You won't sink your battleship if you misspeak, but you'll notice the change in your energy when you do. So the affirmation is something that's to kind of help you drown out the fear voice that you might be wrong or that something bad might happen and you're over here talking about your best possible life now. Well, what if something bad happens? Then what? It's just a temporary thing. So you have to say, whenever you run into something that's tough or hard or scary, this is only temporary. I am living my best possible life now, because all people go through temporary situations. So it is about assuring yourself and teaching yourself this habit, because being in fear is also a habit. It's a habit we want to let go of, because we're now changing that habit for positive intention and affirmation in our energy moving forward. And energy, let's talk about that too. Energy is so many different things, but life force is the ultimate energy source. But energy is inherent in every single thing, especially our living bodies, and in animals, plants, crystals. And I know some people don't, they're like, crystals, what are you talking about? So I'll give you a brief little, the last episode, I kind of mentioned quantum physics. I said, okay, well, I'll get a little bit into that the next time. So let's talk about dimensions. There are 5 dimensions. You have first dimension, which is Earth. Second dimension is animals and plants. Third dimension is human consciousness and awareness. Fourth dimension is where we start to become, instead of me, we start into us and we, right? And fifth dimension is where you start to dissolve into the all and you start to understand the collective consciousness. So it's the shedding of the ego and being in a place of like, if you were a master meditator, or the monks, I believe, would be those kind of people who are always in that fifth dimension space because they're in that meditative energy and connecting. So you can get there too. It just takes a lot of practice. And the whole thing is in third dimension, we're more of a me and a my. Fourth dimension, we start to be we, us. And that's where the big shift happens for us. That's when we start to become aware of the greater quantum world. But I just have to throw in here, here's why crystals are something. Crystals are part of the earth. Every single stone that is here came from inside the minerals and of Mother Earth. So they actually have DNA. I didn't know this. I learned this and because I began to be curious and start to investigate, which is part of the reason I wanted to do this podcast, is to spread some of this information, because I never heard that crystals were actually living things. And that's why they have frequencies, and that's why we're attracted to them, and that's why people use them in healing practices in Reiki. They use them for meditation. I have tons of them. I love the energy of my crystals, and crystals can really help you set a frequency. I use them to help me dial in and kind of quiet my monkey mind to help me focus when I'm doing readings. They do have DNA. If you run an electrical current through crystals, that's how they grow synthetic sapphires and diamonds and all of these different things. They will grow even in the form they are now. They can continue to grow because they have a specific pattern and so you'll hear about the 5 platonic solids, the tetrahedron, the hexahedron, dodecahedron, icosahedron, and octahedron. The 5 platonic solids run throughout everything and are constant. So I find it interesting that we have 5 dimensions and 5 platonic solids. I'm a weird person like that. I run number coincidences and sequences, and numerology is also another modality. So there's a whole plethora of different things that we can cover in this beautiful podcast. We're going to learn a lot. And I am interested in helping others to put their self out there as well. So there'll be people that I interview who've written books, because why reinvent the wheel? I don't have to be an expert. If I can find an expert, it'll help us both, right? So back to some of the other terms you're going to hear me say. There's the word mantra, and that usually is something that it's a statement that's repetitive, but it's also used in Sanskrit, which is an ancient language that allows you to, I kind of prefer the Sanskrit statements because it allows me to lose myself in the sound. I'm not identifying the word with my human definition of it, because when you use another language, you don't have anything to relate it to other than the vibration of the sound. So mantras are very helpful, and they help you get out of the the racing mind. And one of the most important things too is to realize your physical body is an electrical marvel. The way our bodies function, the reason we make sure we are not dehydrated is because the water in our bodies literally conducts the electrical current for all the brain synapses and muscle trigger energy that we use. Every single thing in our body is running off of an electrical flow, and our nervous system is helping to keep that going. Understand, if you don't take good care of yourself and you short circuit your system in some way by not getting enough sleep, not eating good food, being disruptive to your physical body, will alter your experience in what you're doing, even if you're on track and trying to be in that right vibrational path. Your frequency will not match what you're trying to do. So it's important that I cannot stress enough that good sleep, being in a stress-free environment, or allowing yourself to meditate to release the stress, allowing yourself to just be whole and healthy, and be in an open place where you can really participate in your life from an energetic way, will change everything about what you're having happen. So I hope I didn't ramble on too much. I hope this helps with what your what your goals are here. So I told you I'd go into some quantum stuff. One of the other things about quantum understanding is it made so much sense. I want to just briefly go over one more thing. This knowledge is not new. I'll just jump right back into this. Hermes was a great fundamental mystic or sage. He has 7 principles of truth. And he calls these the keys to the doors that help you open the temple within, right? So the mind and using the universe as the principle of mentalism, okay? Being in a place of the all. Number 2, the principle of correspondence, as above, so below, as below, so above. The principle of vibration, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. The principle of polarity, opposites are identical in nature but different in degree. Extremes meet. All things that are paradoxes may be reconciled. Okay? That, I know it sounds big, but we'll get past it. The principle of rhythm, everything flows. Everything has its own compensation. All things rise and fall. The principle of cause and effect. Every cause has an effect, and every effect has a cause. Chance is but a name for a law not recognized. The principle of gender. Gender is everything. Everything has masculine and feminine. Gender manifests on all planes. So let me just take the masculine and feminine real quick, because that's a term I use a lot in tarot. And so let's be right off the bat, let's get that straight. Masculine and feminine have nothing to do with male and female in the greater speaking mind of like when I use it for tarot. Feminine is fertility, new growth, new creativity, ideas coming in, or doing something new, or bringing something new in. And masculine is more actionable. This is where it's time to actually take this and run with it. It's fully formed, it's ready to go. That's the masculine energy. It's already reaching out into the universe. So in the old school representation is Feminine is the receiver. Masculine is the doer or the producer or the the reacher. So those two energies, I just wanted to quickly make those statements so that you can kind of get an idea about what we may broach and help you kind of get familiar with some of the things. Now, I will tell you, I tried to do one of the first things when I started to understand that there was more to life than what I had been taught. I looked at the Course of Miracles, A Course in Miracles, and it threw me for a huge loop because it was way more advanced than I was ready for. And so some of the descriptions of of the torus and the the universe as a donut, I was like, what? A donut? Yeah. So I don't want to go, way beyond and try to get too fancy for myself here, but I just want you to understand that there is a lot more out there than meets the eye, and way beyond our five senses. So I'll leave you with this as one last little quantum idea. If you take 100% of what's in this, what we call life, and you realize that our senses, our five senses, smell, taste, touch, sight, and hearing, we only have a very small sliver of the 100%. So if you were to be grandiose and say each one of those senses covers 1%, that's only 5%. And you got to think about it. We can't see ultraviolet light when that's why we have to wear sunscreen, because we can't really see it happening to us. We can't hear some of the really high pitches that animals can hear. And our eyes have only a limited spectrum of sight. So you get where I'm going with this. If 5%, we take those five senses and we say each one of them has 1% of that 100%, then there's 95% still available to understand. And that is where the crux is. That's where the real ticket item is, because that is where the things that are being developed by our vibrational frequency are. That's the unformed ether that when we speak something into abundance or into our lives through our manifestation in the law of divine compensation and being direct and using our intention and using the mantras and really getting ourselves in the vibration that matches whatever it is we want, that's the unlimited source that we are always talking about. The universe is unlimited. Well, yes, it is, because it has this vast energy that's basically untapped until we start to identify with the frequency that causes it to show up. So I know that's a really deep dive for the very last thing we're going to talk about, but I just wanted to throw that in there just to wet your whistle for some of the really cool conversations we will have coming up. And those are more technical things, and it is a little dry for some people. I promise to try to make it more fun when we really dive into it. I'm not getting too hard on myself to try to be very precise here right before the end of the year. My main purpose was to get on and get comfortable, allow myself to step into this, and just to get it going without stop thinking about it and just do it. And that's where I'm at. And I hope that you enjoy this time that we spend together. And maybe I'll intrigue you enough to investigate and be open to some of the things that we'll discuss as we go further. So I hope everyone has a beautiful day. Thank you for listening, and we will grow this wonderful experience together. Thank you so much, and I will see you next week, or at least I'll talk to you next week. Namaste.